From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Morning Edition.
He's been waiting 7 years to be able to see justice.
This is his third indictment. He will be found not guilty of all 3 indictments.
Clash of opinions. What do you think this morning? Former President Donald Trump back in New Jersey after a third historic arraignment. He is the front runner for the Republican nomination for the presidency. So the big question, did voters change their minds overnight after his latest legal tangle? We're live from Washington, D.C., and Justin is live this morning, too.
Yeah, hazmat teams are expected to be back out here outside of a home where hundreds of boxes of hazardous chemicals were found more than 24 hours ago. A live report coming up next.
And remember these cool days we've had for the past couple days? Well, that's no longer. We're going to warm up into the triple digits as a heat dome builds its way into California. I'll have more on why that's happening coming up in your first alert forecast.
And earlier, unfortunately, there was a freeway shooting. This is on I-80 eastbound in the Albany area. All lanes are back open, but we'll have those updates coming up right.
All right, everybody, let's take a look live outside via the pyramid. Oh, man, it is August indeed. Living up to the term. Let's get a check on weather and traffic, beginning with First Alert meteorologist Jessica Birch. Will this last through the weekend?
It will last for a little bit longer, but we
Okay.
have that heat dome that's down in Las Vegas in the southwest right now that's really starting to stretch its way towards us. And with that in mind, these cool temperatures that we have right now, you can forget about it. Right around the corner, we're going to be seeing triple digits in the forecast for us as we head into our Saturday and even Sunday forecast off into those East Inland Hills, stretching all the way out into the Sacramento Valley too. This is what we're waking up to this morning, though. Reed was telling me this morning just along that Golden Gate Bridge, he was dealing with some fog. This is what it's looking like now that the sun's slowly starting to show it. I mean, temperatures right now also reflecting cool conditions anywhere from San Jose all the way up into San Francisco. We're all pretty much hand in hand. Low 50s, even mid 50s in sight for us throughout many of the Bay Area, or much of the Bay Area. Right now, we're also seeing some trouble spots when it comes to visibility, stretching from Santa Rosa down into Petaluma. That's just at the surface level. So take it slow this morning on that morning commute. Later into this afternoon, we see that marine layer pull its way back. We're left with sunnier skies off into the East Inland Hills and even down into the Santa Clara Valley, but still foggy, cool conditions along our coastline for our Friday forecast. Here's what we're looking at for our daytime highs today. 60s along the coast, 60s even into the Bay Area, with 80s off into our East Inland Hills. We're starting to see that warm up heading into this weekend's forecast. This is a live look right now just from our Black Mountain cam. You can see that marine layer kind of holding on tight to that Santa Clara Valley. It's still cool. It's still a little bit cloudy, but later into this weekend, we're going to start seeing that heat dome really impact many of us off into those East Inland Hills. We're talking about triple digits as early as Sunday just for Concord, but then it goes right back down to the 80s as we head into next week. I'll let you know why that cool down's happening coming up in the First Alert forecast. For now, over to you, Jocelyn.
All right, thank you, Jess. We do want to start with a serious crash here. This is on 280 going southbound near Westboro Boulevard. Unfortunately, we are getting reports that one person has died in this accident. CHP is on the scene. We know that emergency crews are on the scene. You could expect some delays in and around that area. We're not seeing them right now, but just as you move your way through there, just be aware that that could happen. Of course, we'll update you with this one. We are getting reports of a couple of accidents. This is in the Oakland area, and that is causing some delays. You can see some mile per hour speeds there in and around that area. We mentioned this earlier. Unfortunately, there was a shooting on I-80. This was eastbound in the Albany area. This is near Central Avenue. All lanes are back open. Thankfully, no injuries were reported in the shooting. We will keep you updated as we get those updates, Reed.
All right, thank you so much. Well, as Jocelyn mentioned, shootings on Bay Area freeways have really become a serious concern for drivers. And we want to let you know that we are aware that many of you want to know about what happened to that child caught in the middle of a rolling gun battle on an Oakland freeway. This morning, we've got a glimpse into his road to recovery directly from his family. We know this child's name and his age. His family calls him Asa. He's 8 years old. And terrible news this morning to bring you. Because of that shooter's actions, this child has a bullet and bone fragments that are lodged in his neck, will now grow up paralyzed below the neck. On a fundraising website, Asa's family wrote their son needs a respirator to survive and around-the-clock care. We've also learned that there are bright moments too, moments of hope. Asa can read this morning and he is able to communicate. But it is going to be a tough road. Look at this beautiful face. That family faces the cost to care in the 7-figure range, and that's just the first part of this year. This child, this family, just innocence in yet another freeway shooting, a major community problem. You'll remember last month, Asa was with his mother on 580 near Grand Avenue, caught innocently between shooters in 2 cars, who were firing back and forth. We also know you want to know what's happening with the case. We've reached out to CHP. So far, we understand nobody's arrested. The suspects got away. The cars are missing. But we're going to be committed to following up on this story as Asa continues to fight for his life. Your community station in the South Bay this morning, where we know it was a scary night for a lot of you, and you can see why. A wildfire scorching the earth in East San Jose. In fact, it inched close to homes. New this morning, fire crews are still out there working to contain those hot spots. Let's show you the map to give you an idea of where this is. The fire burned fast. It ballooned from 30 acres to more than double that size in just the first hour when we brought it to you live yesterday at 3 p.m. It's burning over near Clayton Road and via Della Vista in Alum Rock.
The way it was spreading, it did make me nervous about the houses that were back there. I've seen it jump the canyon before, so it was pretty scary. My mom lives up there and she's elderly, so I was worried about her. And so I was driving up the road and first we saw the smoke and then we saw the fire. And I was worried about the horses that were right next to it.
That's viewer Janine there telling us her story. You can see the dumps of the water there. An update this morning, CAL FIRE says the fire is 30% contained. So far, it's too early to figure out why the fire sparked in the first place, but it is going to for sure be another long day for firefighters. So if you see firefighters out there doing battle again today, make sure to say thanks. To San Pablo now, where those of you forced from your homes after a hazmat scare, we understand some are getting ready to go back in. In fact, our crews watched those hazmat teams responding quickly, removing hundreds of boxes of chemicals from a backyard shed over on Stanton Avenue. Justin Andrews is live on the scene this morning. Good news that people can go back, but we do see some police tape behind you, Justin.
Yeah, and that's because police are still protecting the scene. There are only 5 homes that are still under that evacuation order. We're told that some of those families will be able to get back into their homes at some point today. A timeline for that still hasn't been made clear to us, but I want to walk you through how we got to this point because it's been a very methodical and a pretty lengthy move by investigators and hazmat teams as they clean up for this. Now, all of this started on Wednesday. They found more than 600 different chemicals and removed more than 800 bottles of hazardous materials from this property here. This process had to be done very carefully as crews had to not only remove those chemicals, but they had to test those chemicals and then properly dispose of them. So this was a long process. And that shed filled with hazardous materials belonged to a retired chemistry teacher who had died roughly 6 months ago. The brother of that chemist found all of these things when he was cleaning out the property just days ago.
Ranging from explosives to regular chemicals to acids to oxidizers, flammable liquids. At this point, most of that has been contained, has been stabilized, has been transported off-site from the residence to a facility where it will be disposed.
So those hazmat crews are expected to be out here at some point this morning. We haven't seen them yet. Again, no timeline on when they will return. Meanwhile, we do know those chemicals that were found in that shed, according to authorities, they may have been sitting there for years, and that forced them to be a little bit questionable as to what those chemicals were. So they've been there for quite a while. I'll send it back to you, Reed.
What a story. We're glad people can get back in their homes for the weekend ahead. Justin Andrews, thank you so much. Now this.
When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America.
Facing yet another indictment, Donald Trump continues to beat that drum that the cases against him are just all political. Well, this morning, he wants the January 6th case moved out of Washington, D.C. Mr. Trump getting on his plane, telling a judge yesterday he's not guilty in the charges that he plotted to overturn the 2020 election results. So let's frame this. Think about this. Donald Trump is the clear frontrunner for the Republican nomination for president, while at the same time, he faces some 78 criminal charges in 3 separate cases. And all the while, he's been adamant that the 2020 election was stolen. Now, contrast that with what happened. Once again, we see the same scene. Donald Trump getting out of a big SUV, booked and fingerprinted before going in to face a judge. Once again, no mugshot taken. Once again, not guilty plea in front of that judge. Prosecutors allege and argue a criminal conspiracy to hold on to power, spreading lies, proven lies of a stolen election, culminating in the deadly attack on the nation's capital. Well, this morning, We have a little bit of a glimpse into what the defense will be in this case by Trump's lawyer. Listen to this. Trump's lawyer argues that his client has a simple First Amendment right to express his feelings.
What President Trump did is he said, go patriotically and peacefully and protest. That is an American right. That is why we are America.
Earlier in that interview, she told Fox News that Trump knew he lost the election. Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, who represents San Jose and served on the January 6th committee, said this.
There's ample evidence to prove that the then president knew that he'd lost. I'll say also, I mean, he lied to members of Congress and the Senate.
Zoe Lofgren there. We've got complete coverage on the indictment of former President Donald Trump on KPIX.com. You can read the full 45-page indictment, just like Jack Smith urged all of us in the United States to do. You can also study up on the special counsel's full comments and find more information about Trump's other indictments and criminal cases and judge it for yourself. In our next half hour, we will go live to Washington, D.C. for details on what happened inside and outside that courtroom and what comes next.